What if you could do it all over again? Would you do it? Start a new life with a new name, new parents, a new future. Would you do it? Would you give up everything you have now for a chance at a new life? Honestly, I hope you all answered no. To be able to say no to a fresh start says that you're happy where you are. If you're willing to give all that up, then I'm sorry I asked. But what I want you to realize is that life is a gift. You are where you are now because that's where you need to be. It might not make sense. It might hurt. You might wonder, why does such a thing have to happen? Why am I forced to experience this? Be it abuse, betrayal of friends, sickness, personal problems, and inner demons you wish to escape yet have their claws deep in your heart. I can't lie when I say that I've been where you are right now, but trust in the plan that exists for you. Fires only glow brightest when they burn fiercely. Gold only shines when it passes through a furnace, and stars only shine bright when the night is darkest. But don't give up on believing in the future. Currently, in our story, Minato is caught in such a situation. Happiness seeming well out of reach, having suffered pain and forced to live as a scar in his own heart. But all the more he believes that maybe there's a reason that this has happened. If not for himself, then so that his pain can serve as a silent witness to someone else. Maybe someone like Inari. Your pain is rarely yours, and the way you stand in the storm will roar louder than the winds trying to push you down. Whatever your circumstances, I believe in you. You can do it. But alas, I prattle on. I just wanted you to know that even though we've never met, I value you, your existence, and believe in the you that I know all people can become. I hope that this video is everything you'll expect it to be. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Minato stood under the shaded awning of a shop, sipping on a milkshake. This was one of the things he had always loved to do. There was a shop that was friendly to him, even when the rest of the village was not, and the kind people there, even though they too had been scarred by the Ninetales attack, would still smile when he came in. Minato knew that deep down there was resentment, but that was okay, because he also knew that deep down there was understanding, and the attempt to conquer their own pain, and Minato respected that. Whenever he had the chance to grace them with a visit, that's exactly what he would do. His money serving this small family, and in return getting a nice peanut butter milkshake to provide extra protein after a strenuous workout. His current body was a masterpiece. It took all the best traits that existed within Minato and mixed it with the wonderfully perfect traits of Kushina. Naruto was a liger of potential, and his youth mixed with his genetics left him predisposed to being strong. It made Minato so proud, though a deep sorrow often would overtake him, as no matter where he went, he felt like an alien invading the body of someone else. Imagine such a feeling, such an existential crisis, and it was one he lived in all day long. He was a ghost, an abomination, he felt, having taken the rightful body of his son, a parasite. But all the same, he questioned himself. If he could ask Naruto right now, the boy would likely tell his father to use the body and enjoy life. But was this really even Minato's life to enjoy? No, he pushed those thoughts from his head. Can't I even enjoy a milkshake without falling back into despair? Good grief. He smiled and sucked down the rest of this delicious milkshake. He would put the disposable cup into the trash receptacle and head back to his apartment. As he went to open the door, he noticed something. There was a chip in the door beside the deadbolt. By this time, Minato's key was already in the deadbolt, so now his position was exposed. No matter. If someone's inside, then they're relying on the element of surprise. Now that I know that they're there, they've lost their only advantage. And now that I know what they plan, the advantage is flipped. They'll be too predictable. He pushed open the door. Looking in, he didn't see anything. He pushed it further to see if the door would crush anyone possibly standing behind it, but there wasn't. Stepping in, he closed it behind him and locked it too, keeping his eyes forward but his attention and sensory perception of chakra focused behind him at all times. Turning around, he walked forward into the kitchen and saw a kettle on the stove, which then began to whistle. Quite a peculiar assassin, Minato thought. Made himself right at home. He then heard a groan coming from behind a locked door, followed by the sound of a flushing toilet. Goodness gracious, this must be a true professional. Minato decided to sit down on his couch as he waited. He heard the sink's water running before the extraordinarily loud creaking of the bathroom door opening. When the man stepped out, the wild hair and red Haori took Minato by surprise. Jiraiya-sensei? The old man looked over. Well, if it isn't little Naruto. Surprised to see that you recognize me. Or maybe I'm not. What's that supposed to mean? Minato asked. Well, let's just say a little jumping monkey told me that you're not what you seem. He didn't tell me why though, only that I'd find it interesting, and indeed I do. Who would have known that reincarnation was actually possible? Minato sat there. So you know then. Jiraiya tapped the side of his noggin. The Uchiha aren't the only ones who claim that their eyes see the truth. He walked over to the whistling pot of water. He lifted it off the stove's eye and poured it into a cup of ramen. He then folded down the lid of the paper cup and sat his chopsticks on top to let the noodles finish cooking. He turned around. So I bet you're wondering why I'm here. Oh, so it's not just a kind visit, Minato asked. Jiraiya shook his head. It's because I was told that you were the opportunity of a lifetime for Konoha. The wisdom of one of the greatest shinobi to ever live, placed inside of a body so strong that your power hasn't dampened a bit, only growing daily. Now that sounds like the chance of a lifetime if you ask me, but what's more is you have the Nine Tails sealed inside of you. Your potential could turn you into more than just the strongest shinobi in the world, but the strongest shinobi in history. You might even set a record that no shinobi could ever live up to, and I just couldn't help but try and stamp my name onto that achievement somehow. You're my greatest legacy after all. Minato smiled. I think you overblow my potential. Au contraire, my student. I think you underestimate yourself as well as the Nine Tails. I've been sent to instruct you on how to deal with this, so be ready to do a little training. Minato leaned his head back. I just got back from a mission earlier today and I already did a workout. Can I at least have a day off? Now currently eating from the cup, Jiraiya spoke, his noodles whipping the air, giving new sound to the words passing between his lips. Why put off until tomorrow the things you can do today? Because today sucks, Minato said flatly. Jiraiya sighed and smiled at his apprentice's wit. Well, if it helps any, the kind of training we're gonna do will not be training you physically, but mentally. So you don't have to worry about pulling a muscle or overworking yourself. Connecting with the Nine Tails is what's important. Have you been in your own psyche with it yet? Of course, it's how I unlocked the memories of my past. Jiraiya nodded. Then you're halfway there. Next is getting chakra from your beast. I don't think that's gonna work, Minato said. Kushina has already stated that he hates my guts and wishes me dead, so I don't think me asking him pretty please with a cherry on top is gonna do too much. Who said the beast had to cooperate? Minato was confused. Wait, what? Jiraiya smiled. If he won't give you his chakra freely, you just gotta take it from him. That might require an alteration to your seal, however, and it also might require you to face the beast in combat. But you don't have to worry about doing that today. That'll come later. Right now, I just want you to close your eyes and probe around. Don't even bother talking with the Nine Tails if you don't think it'll cooperate. Just walk around and test out your capabilities in there. See if your chakra holds out. See if you're as strong in there as you are outside. Minato would do as commanded, and found that his power was all the same whether he was in his psyche or not. Jiraiya would pat him on the back. If you really want to have a chance at smoking the beast, consider using Sage Mode. This technique will be perfect for the battle as it means you can continually rebuild your spent chakra as you fight. But wait, if I'm fighting, I'll be moving, and if I'm moving, I can't build up Sage Mode. Jiraiya shook his head. You misunderstand. Just because you're fighting in your head doesn't mean you're moving. The real you that's utilizing Sage Mode will be sitting still. The you in your mind will be reaping the benefits. Trust me, the battle will be far easier than it was 11 years ago, and once you have the Nine Tails power at your disposal, you'll basically be unstoppable. Minato thought about it. That sounds good. And so the next day, Minato and Jiraiya met outside the village in a place of safety. I won't be able to help you fight. I'd mostly just get in the way if I tried, and at least I'm honest enough to admit that. What I can do, however, is keep this seal nearby. Jiraiya pulled out a piece of paper with a seal on it. The moment things go awry, I activate this and shut the beast and pull you out. So be careful. Minato nodded. Minato opened the jacket he wore to expose the seal and laid back before Jiraiya so that his master could prepare for the battle. Let me know if you need to apply the seal. Minato nodded. He closed his eyes and entered his subconscious. There he stepped up to the gate. Jiraiya knelt there over his apprentice. He suddenly saw the seal markings appear. Looking up to his student's face, he saw the coloration forming around his eyes, signifying he was now in Sage Mode. Within his subconscious, Minato was doing a few warm-ups. It was strange to think he might pull a muscle in his mind, but perhaps he was also trying to psych himself up for it. He bounced on his tippy toes as if he were jumping an invisible rope. He rolled his neck and shoulders and attempted to pop any joints he could to ensure that nothing caught. Focus, focus, he said to himself as he continued building more energy. Once he was ready, he ripped the tag off from the cage and exposed a swirling seal, not too different from the seal his body bore. And as that seal opened, so too did the seal on his body. Outside, Jiraiya saw this. Okay, things are about to start. As a moment or two passed, a red, viscous chakra began bubbling up out of him, boiling to the surface and beyond like sea foam. Minato watched the gate finish unlocking. As soon as it did, the Nine Tails launched out. This was the moment it had been waiting for. Charging out, it swung its claws at him. Minato jumped back and bounced along the surface of the water to create distance. All the while he did this, his head was pounding. He could hear it in his ears. I got this. I got this. He rushed in with a Rasengan and prepared to use it when a tail smashed him back. Minato skid across the surface of the water. The beast then prepared a tailed beast bomb in its mouth. Minato knew that this attack was coming for him, but instead of running away, he rushed toward the beast. The Ninetales wouldn't risk maiming itself at a point like this. Planned blast must be lighter around the Ninetales' legs. Minato ran there, and as the ball was fired, he dodged it and made it to the legs. The explosion was bright, it was loud, and it was hot. Minato felt the heat on its skin, and he felt that he might get a sunburn from this level of chakra blast. Beyond that, the wind then blew him back away from the beast toward the cage. The following vacuum would then pull him back toward the beast. He used this moment to gain the advantage. The blast sucking him forward, he rose to his feet and ran in the direction of it, letting the pull increase his speed. However, Kurama would be ready for this and would bat Minato out of the way with one of its tails. Minato hit the ground and then stood. He then saw the beast coming at him again. This time it clawed up the ground, lifting Minato up. Despite Minato trying his best to fight back, he couldn't, and it was then that he noticed that the Ninetales' eyes possessed not only the vertical slits of a fox, but also the horizontal slits of a toad. Kurama was also in sage mode. "We share a body," the beast said to him. "Any chakra that's not yours is shared with me if I desire to take it. I think I'll devour your soul and keep this body for myself." Kurama opened his mouth to eat Minato, but was suddenly restrained when a bunch of chains rose from the ground and bound him, causing the fox to drop Minato. Minato hit the ground on his butt and felt a vibration run up his spine. His teeth chattered from the fall, but he recovered. He saw the chains and saw Kurama. He then witnessed as the chains dragged Kurama across the ground and back into the cage before closing it and sealing it once more. Minato stood there, confused and awestruck, when suddenly a pair of hands crossed over his shoulders and rested on his chest. The feeling of a soft stomach pushed up against his back. Minato's eyes began to overflow with tears as his teeth started to chew into his upper lip, trying to make him focus on something else. Minato turned around and hugged the woman standing there. "Kushina!" he cried out. She hugged him tightly. She knelt down to his level and pulled him back. "It's been years since I've seen you look even remotely like this. Reminds me of the day we first met. Such sweet memories, huh?" Minato rubbed his eyes and tried to smile. "They feel like a lifetime ago." "That's probably because they were," Kushina said with a chuckle. Minato's smile faded as his eyes twisted back into sorrowful distress. "Kushina." She hugged him again. "It's okay. Take your time, my love." Minato gave in to the child within and just cried. Whether this was his sorrow being manipulated by the body of an 11-year-old, or whether he deep down felt like a lost child seeking his mother, remained unknown. But what was true was that he was in intense pain right now and couldn't help but cry, trembling in her arms. With all of his strength, his heart was fragile like glass, and the cracks that had manifested had left it shattered on the floor before her. Kushina was left to pick up the pieces and put the sweet and loving heart of her Minato back together again. It wasn't the first time she had to do it, though it could well be the last. She pulled him back and looked directly into his eyes. Though the body was Naruto's, the eyes were Minato's, beyond the shadow of a doubt. "Oh, how proud I am of you, Minato, for being so strong, for fighting against the pain you feel. But you're not yet ready to take the full power of the Ninetales. There's still something you need, and for that, you need to go back to the beginning." "The beginning of what?" Minato asked. Kushina smiled. "Us." "I don't know where that is anymore," Minato said. "Do you know how much I love you, my whirlpool?" Minato nodded. "I do. That's why it hurts so bad." She pulled him into a hug again and began to assault his cheek with kisses of the most loving variety. Minato felt like his strength was gone. His will to fight, his will to walk on, his very will to live. If she was his life's purpose, as he had said she was, and she was gone, how could he feel that his life had any meaning? He just wanted to die and be done with it. This life was a curse. This reincarnation was a cruel trick played by the Shinigami. The only thing that mattered to him was her and freeing her. That was all that mattered. All that could matter. "How do I free you? What do I do now?" She held out her hand. "You're an Uzumaki now, Minato. Let the whirlpool guide you. The whirlpool you carry inside you. It will lead you where you're supposed to go, and when you get there, you'll know. Your heart will tell you." Minato took her hands. "Please, don't leave me. I don't care if it's heaven, hell, or the Shinigami's stomach. Just take me with you." Kushina smiled. "My love, you've been so strong, but don't you give up now. You can do so much more. This generation needs you, and it would be too cruel to rob them of their Yondaime Hokage a second time. So, continue down your path. All will be fine. Just have faith." She leaned forward and kissed his cheek. "Remember that you're never alone. No matter where you go or what form you take, I'll always be there with you." She then faded from sight, leaving Minato silent. Outside, Jiraiya saw the bubbling chakra disappear and saw the seal close again. "Good on you, Minato. You must have done it." Jiraiya sat back, lowering his guard. Eventually, Minato opened his eyes. "Did you do it?" Minato sat up, stretched, and smiled. "Nope, I sucked so hard." He gave a chuckle. "I think I'm gonna need to do some studying first, Jiraiya-sensei." Jiraiya was shocked. "You couldn't do it?" Minato shook his head. "I thought that I hadn't lost any strength, but my body still isn't in peak physical conditioning, and I failed to beat it. I tried to rely upon Sage Mode to carry the slack, but as it turns out, the Nine Tails can tap into my Sage Chakra at will, so it got stronger too and trounced me. So I could only seal it up again." "If it trounced you, then how'd you manage to seal it alone?" "That's not important. All that matters is that I get the chance to prepare for my next attempt. Is that okay, Master?" Jiraiya nodded. "Take your time." Minato would then get up and make his way back to Konoha, where he'd be intercepted by Kakashi. Minato would roll his head on his neck. "Come on, Kakashi, I gotta have a little time for me. What do you got?" Kakashi would walk alongside him. "Remember when I said I was going to recommend the team to become Chunin? Well, I did, and here is an accepted. That being said, I recommended off the basis of Sasuke and Sakura's merits, not yours. While I wish to humor your decision to remain lower as to experience life as a true genin, I can't let your desires stifle the careers of Sasuke and Sakura. I hope you understand." "I do. So I suppose that this test is going to be a 3-person team thing, as in they can't participate without me?" "That's how it always is," Kakashi said. "They might be able to make exceptions, but that's generally only for the best of the best. And while Sasuke and Sakura might be able to become Chunin now, they're not good enough to merit an exception. You would, but as I said, I didn't brag much about you. And even if I did, Hiruzen already knows what you are and what you want. That being said, before Hiruzen accepts, he needs your approval, which is why I came to pick you up. Can you give your seal of approval to this so that Sasuke and Sakura can participate?" Minato took a deep breath and let it out in a sigh, though there was no frustration as he smiled. "Yes, Kakashi, I won't stifle their potential for selfish reasons. Let's do it." Kakashi would then begin to walk off to tell Hiruzen. "Alright, I'll inform the Hokage. You grab Sasuke and Sakura and make your way to the sign-up location." Kakashi would run off. Minato would meet up with Sasuke and Sakura and tell them the good news. Sakura seemed pleased. Sasuke, however, seemed a bit upset by this turn of events, as he believed that this was all because of Minato's potential, and that it had nothing to do with him. Minato would put his hand on Sasuke's shoulder. "Trust me, Sasuke. If they didn't believe you and Sakura were ready, they wouldn't have recommended it." Sasuke pushed Minato's hand from his shoulder. "Mark my words. I'm going to prove to them exactly why I deserve to be a Chunin. I'm going to carry in this exam." Minato pulled back. He was beginning to see that, regardless of if he agreed to the Chunin exams or not, his presence on Team 7 was already stifling their careers. Sasuke was growing more and more frustrated in the secret shadow of the Hokage. Minato wanted to explain things to him, but he was afraid that telling children would not be a good idea. He didn't want this getting out and affecting how people perceived him. "If you want to do that, I won't get in your way." Sasuke stepped forward and put a finger in Minato's face. "No, I don't want your pity, and I don't want you to let me be better. No, you're gonna do your best to beat me, and I'm going to destroy you regardless." Sasuke then began to storm off. Sakura called out for him, and she looked at Minato. "Sorry, Naruto. He's just feeling a little frustrated. He feels like he's not worthy of his name." Minato waved it off. "I get it. No need to explain. We just need to apply quickly so we can join the exams. That is, if you want to." Sakura smiled. "Of course. If Sasuke wants to become a Chunin, I do too." Sakura began to walk off when Minato called out to her. "Sakura!" She looked back. "It's not my business to say, but I think you should decide what's best for you, not what's best for Sasuke. If you truly want to do this, then do it, but don't bite off more than you can chew for him. Just take care of yourself." She offered a smile. "Of course, Naruto. Thanks for your concern, but trust me, I am doing what's best for me." And so the trio made their way to the location Kakashi had told them about, and they signed up for the exams. That night, Minato's sleeping was less than it should be. He kept thinking about Kushina, how much he wanted to be with her, and how little he was starting to care about hanging around this world. After all, he was making this team's lives even harder. The scars hurt so badly, and he just wanted to die. Not because he was depressed particularly, but because his heart was somewhere else. All the same, he heard Kushina's voice in his head, telling him that he needed to be strong for her. He needed to figure out for what reason he remained in this world. If he survived, then he did so for a reason, and that reason would be instrumental to the future of the world. That night, as he laid in bed, he continued to read the words of Kushina. By this time, he had already read the book cover to cover 3 times, and he was currently reading it through a 4th. To hear her voice again, he would have traded his eyes, even for only a short moment, but this was the next best thing. As midnight came around, he finally turned the lights off. He sat the book to the side upon a pillow next to his. Laying there, looking at the spine of the book, he felt as if he were with Kushina again. And maybe, Even if he couldn't see her, he was. All the same, he laid there and tried to remember her touch, the feeling of her skin against his own. He tried to transport himself back in time to the last time the two shared a bed, to the last time the two of them cuddled and snuggled. It was only through this sweet memory that he could shut his mind off long enough to find rest. She was with him, even though he didn't see it, he could feel it. A kiss to his cheek, a reassuring kiss. The exams were to be what Minato expected. 3 tests designed to measure capability of the mind, teamwork, and independence. The last 2 of which would include survival skills and strength, respectively. Each test designed to completely cover the full spectrum of required abilities a shinobi needed to have. That was why, to continue through the exams, one needed to pass each test as they came about. Minato didn't expect to have many problems with this, as he was already Kage level, but he did find the written test a bit more troublesome. His mind was not always the best with math. He did have common sense, but in math and calculations, he was a bit below average. Some might ask how it was that he could be so accurate and quick and so precise without calculations. And the basic answer was that he simply relied upon his intuition. He did what felt right, and most of the time, these knee-jerk reactions were on the mark. He had long since learned to trust his gut. The issue was his gut was not as accurate as these questions required him to be, so he began to panic the more he saw math pop up. But he at least managed to finish before the time was up. It was then that the group was informed that the test was meaningless, and that the only question that mattered was the final one, a do-or-die question. Refusal to answer meant failure. Getting the question wrong was resigning yourself to the rank of genin for all eternity. The only path forward was to answer this question correctly. Minato didn't think that this was legal. After all, it was unlikely that all these other nations would agree to having the best of their generation locked behind genin forever for simply not answering a question correctly. Minato thought that it seemed fishy, but even if his heart did believe there was a possibility, Minato's true reason for being in this world still had little to nothing to do with his ranking. All he wanted was to save Kushina. Everything else was a bonus. So he decided to take the test anyway. But by deciding to take it, he, as well as the rest of the class, were informed that they did indeed pass. Minato would happily move on to the next round. This round was a survival test based on capture the flag. He cracked his knuckles and his neck. Sasuke put his hand on Minato's shoulder. Remember, try as hard as you can. Don't insult me. Minato stood there, unsure how to answer. If he were going to be real, he would state that it was impossible to do both. If Minato did the best that he could, that alone would be an insult to Sasuke. They were comparing a barely Chunin level shinobi to one who stood up above the other 4 Kage during his time. This was an unfair matchup, so he ignored Sasuke. One day he'd understand. And if he never did, then who gave a damn? Minato wasn't here to please Sasuke, he was here to do his job. That was it. As soon as the gates opened, the 3 entered. Minato, having been the only one to lead a team, instinctively took point. He'd begin issuing orders and explaining strategies. Taking out a map, he would gauge the terrain, the resources, and the experience of the other shinobi. Cross-referencing that with all the other shinobi from other villages, he managed to get a rough location of where their best chances were to find weaker shinobi. Most of the shinobi who were weakest would be right here, close to the river. The sound of the water would cover up sounds of their camp, and the fresh water could be used as a resource. Not to mention, it's a natural place where animals gather, so hunting would become easier. And because of that, the weakest will go there. I don't want to pick on weak shinobi. I want to take out worthy opponents, Sasuke said. Minato looked back. Don't forget what these exams are for. To call the strong from the weak. Sounds like a weakling's answer, Sasuke said. Minato looked back. We're going to the river, unless you wish to challenge my leadership. Sasuke stepped up. Maybe I do. Minato turned back. Sakura stepped between them. Both of you stop. We're supposed to be a team, and we're damn well gonna act like one. Naruto's right. What matters right now is becoming Chunin, not proving ourselves to only ourselves. And with that, Sasuke backed down. Seeing as he was outvoted, which Minato took truly as a surprise, he complied. Minato's respect for Sakura grew then, showing that she was capable of disagreeing with Sasuke, and even somewhat commanding his respect. She was strong in her own right. Minato and the rest of the team would make their way to find the scroll they required to finish their set. As they made it to the river though, they found a camp. Deserted. Minato knelt down and looked for footprints in the mud. Did they abandon this place? Did they know we were coming? Sakura asked. Sasuke had his Sharingan active. Minato knew that Sasuke knew. He spoke to Sakura. No, if you look closely, there are 4 different footprint types, each a different size than the last. The 4th shoe is the size of an adult compared to the 3 children. These shinobi were targeted. The way that they're moving insinuates a struggle. Whoever came at this group seems to have pushed them toward the river, cornering them. Did they escape? Sakura asked. Minato shrugged. I don't see a body. Guys, you might want to see this, Sasuke said from a tree limb above. Minato and Sakura followed him up. Looking back down, they were surprised to see that a massive slithering mark was present in the mud and dirt around the camp. They were attacked by a summoner, Sakura said. Looks like a snake user, Sasuke said. As he said so, Minato's mind began to fire. Was it possible? Suddenly, Sasuke cried out. Minato looked back and saw a white snake hanging from Sasuke's neck, its fangs sunk in. Minato ran over and pulled the snake off and threw it to the side. He would quickly pull a kunai and score the area, careful not to touch his carotid. He'd begin trying to suck the venom out, but it was no use. Suddenly, Sasuke fell over. As he did so, a mark appeared on his neck. There's no poison. It's a curse mark. What does it do? Sasuke asked. Minato shook his head. I've never seen anything like it. We need to bring Sasuke somewhere safe until we can figure out what to do. Worst case, we might need to forfeit. Sakura agreed. As dangerous as it was, Minato decided that they should remain close to the river. Most low-level shinobi wouldn't suspect them of being there, and the higher-level shinobi would be no match for Minato's full power, so he decided that it was best to remain, as Sasuke seemed to be developing a fever, which the cool water would cool down. So they stayed close to the water the whole time and let him rest. During this time, they'd be attacked by the genin from the hidden sound. Minato alone would step out to face them. As he fought them, not only did he push them back, but he managed to steal their scroll. This would allow them to escape. He went back to excitedly tell the others, but as he did, Sakura screamed. Minato ran back to help, only to see Sasuke jump out into the sunlight. His body was covered in black marks, and his chakra was radiating a violet color. All you ever do is embarrass me. You, a nobody from nowhere. There's nothing special about you at all, and yet you surpass me at every turn. Me, the last Uchiha. My Kekai Genkai is the best of all, and you, a nobody with nothing to his name but a flash orange jumpsuit, can surpass it? I hate you to death. Minato stood there silently. He put his kunai away. He wouldn't use it against his friend. Bring it back. Do you still not see me as a threat? You still handicap yourself against me. I'll rip out your insides. Sasuke rushed at Minato. Minato got down into a defensive position. Sasuke tipped his fingers with chakra, forming claws. Minato rolled to the side to avoid the first strike. Sasuke would immediately change position to face him again and would then try once more to attack. Minato would flip back. Sasuke's strength and speed had increased quite a bit with this power. As Minato stood there, dodging, he could sense that this was somehow nature energy. Sasuke was in some form of sage transformation, not too unlike Snake Sage mode. This all but confirmed his suspicions that Orochimaru was somewhere around here. But why send his lackeys to face them? Was it possible that he too knew that Naruto was actually Minato? Sasuke, calm down. I never said I didn't take you as a threat. I just don't want to kill you. If I'm a threat, then face me with everything you've got. Stop holding back. Stop holding back. He shouted as he smashed into the ground, sending a shockwave that nearly knocked Minato off his feet. Minato took out a kunai and threw it at Sasuke. Sasuke dodged. Finally, you're finally taking me seriously. As he rushed Minato again, Minato would utilize the flying Raijin Jutsu to get to his kunai. He would then pick it up, cut his hand, and rush back to Sasuke. He jumped onto his back, forcing his bleeding hand down on Sasuke's curse mark. From there, symbols formed from Minato's blood began to surround the mark. Sasuke struggled, trying to beat Minato into a nearby tree trunk. Minato remained resolute, however. Evil sealing method, he shouted as he pushed his chakra into the mark. From there, the mark would be chained up by this Fuinjutsu. Sasuke cried out as the marks retracted from his body. He screamed, but not in pain, in sorrow. Tears streamed from his face. Take me seriously. Take me seriously. He then fell forward and passed out. Sakura ran to them. Minato noticed that there were 4 bleeding marks on her arm. Are you okay? Minato asked her. She nodded. Just a small scratch. She checked on Sasuke. Is he okay? Minato nodded. Yeah, but I've had enough of this stupid forest. Let's get out of here. Minato would lift Sasuke onto his back and would rush off with him through the forest toward the center, where the designated meeting place would be. They would be met by Irika, who would call for the medical team to take Sasuke. What happened to him? Minato and Sakura looked at each other. Minato then spoke. He was attacked by a snake and branded with a curse mark. Irika would notice the 4 slash marks on Sakura's arm. Are you okay? She nodded. It was the same shinobi who branded Sasuke. Minato knew this was a lie. Sasuke had done that to her, but all the same, Minato didn't spill the beans. That curse mark was what brought Sasuke's deepest feelings to the surface. He didn't want Sasuke to suffer because of his ill will towards him. Minato was an issue for Team 7 and was still getting in the way of Sasuke's career. And so, when he heard that the 3rd and final round of exams would be a solo exhibition, Minato knew that his team didn't need him anymore to continue. So he dropped out of the exams completely. Kakashi would ask him why he did so, and Minato stated that he wanted to give Sasuke a chance to shine without his presence. In truth, Minato was considering leaving Team 7 as a whole. he would not be the one to bring them crashing down. Besides, he had other missions to undertake. He and Jiraiya would meet for lunch, and he would tell Jiraiya what Kushina had said to him the day he had failed to beat the Ninetales. And Jiraiya would tell him that this journey was his for now, and to contact him when he needed him. And so Minato pondered what she meant. Where we began. Let the whirlpool guide you. Minato thought about it. He then had a flash of memory he thought he had forgot. As he stood there, he realized that there was a marking on the ground. Covered in dust and mostly invisible, it was the remains of a sealing formula. A swirl like a whirlpool. An Uzumaki clan formula. He followed it to its center and found a tower bearing the crest of the Uzumaki clan. Entering within, he saw the spiral staircase leading up. This was where Minato and Kushina's relationship truly took a turn for the best. This was a special place for them. This was where he had proposed to her. He remembered it now, vividly. As he climbed the staircase, he found a secret room, and within was a plethora of Uzumaki clan books on various forms of fuinjutsu. Minato found one detailing the dead demon-consuming seal, and particularly how it was released. The mask that was required was detailed and explained within, as well as a note as to where the mask was located now. Minato smiled. This is it. This is how I'm gonna free Kushina. He would immediately run out of the building. The note contained a map with a marking on it. He followed the map and found what he was looking for. An old shrine, broken down and dilapidated. It possessed the Uzumaki clan's sigil on the front. He knew he was there. Walking in, he found a wall covered in masks. Each one was different, and he didn't know if they would all work or only one. But he sought the mask that at least looked like the Shinigami that Kushina had used. Confirming the mask to be the one he was looking for, he took it home with him. When he got home, he read through the book and realized what had to be done to free her soul. I'm gonna have to put on the mask, summon the Shinigami, and carve open my own belly. Looking down at his hands, he began to wonder if he should. This could very well kill him. He looked up toward the heavens and took a deep breath. If I die, it's not so bad, right? Just so long as Kushina's free. Then I can at least be with my family again. He said this trying to psych himself up. He then pulled a kunai and knelt down. Putting the mask on his face, he summoned the Shinigami. He looked at the blade in his hands for a moment, the spectral image behind him doing the same. Minato opened his jacket to make it easier for him. The Shinigami did the same. Minato's heart was racing. He felt like a dishonored samurai, someone who had defiled their master's home and was now forced to commit harakiri to reclaim their honor. But then again, had he not done the same to Naruto? He had defiled his body by taking it for himself, and now he needed to offer retribution to pay back his son, by delivering him to his mother that he had not known. Kushina, Naruto, please grant me the strength to do this. He then held his tri-pronged kunai out before him. He took 4 deep breaths and let out a war cry as he drove the blade in. Coughing up blood, he felt his body begin to enter shock, but he wasn't done yet. His hands already covered in his own crimson lifeblood, he found his grip weakened. Finish it! Finish it! He shouted to himself. Suddenly, he jerked his blade to the right. With a cry and a pain he had never experienced before, he finished the deed. In that moment, he heard the cry of spirits as they left the Shinigami's opened gut. Minato had never felt such pain, a pain so intense that he couldn't even scream. He had been stabbed by Kurama, but he had, at that time, had adrenaline numbing the pain. Slowly, his whole body began to grow cold. His eyes started to roll up in his head and he bobbed forward, his masked face smashing into the blood-stained carpet below. At about that time, Jiraiya began knocking on the door. Minato! Minato! I think I may have found a way to help you capture the power of the Ninetales. Remember what you told me about Kushina? Well, it made me think. I think I know what you can do now. There was no response. Minato, open the door. I got popsicles. They're melting. There was still no response. Jiraiya put the 2 popsicles into his mouth and knelt down, looking like a walrus as he sought the spare key under the mat. Pulling it up, he unlocked the door and opened it. As soon as he did, his mouth opened and the popsicles fell out onto the floor. He scrambled to get in. Minato! Minato! He rushed over and laid the boy back. He saw the mask and the wound. He saw all the blood and bile spilt out onto the ground. Minato, what have you done to yourself? Minato! He cradled his student in his arms. Please, don't die. You can't die, not again. You can't leave me like this again. He shook his body. Minato! And scene. I like cliffhangers. Or is this a cliffhanger? Maybe I just ended the series. How'd you like that? Well, I guess you're just gonna have to wait a little while to see if I'm planning to do something more with this one. Alright, fine. I'll tell ya, this isn't the last part, but that's all you'll get out of me, so you really just have to wait. If you like this video, be sure to say so and click that like button. It really helps us out when you do. And if you've not subscribed yet, then do so. It's the only way you can ring the bell. And if you want to know as soon as the next part drops, then you gotta ring that bell to get that notification. What's that? I know you don't want it to end on a cliffhanger like this, but consider it an exercise in patience. After all, patience is a virtue, and everyone could use a few more virtues. But I won't leave you high and dry. I'll attach a couple more videos for you at the end that you just might like. Maybe it'll tide you over. Anyway, until next time, peace out, my Amagites.